Day number 9 in my harvest calendar. It's afternoon in Sweden, and we just arrived home from school and our local grocery store. We go there twice a week to get some milk, and I try to buy as much as possible to our household from our local store, because it's so very important that we keep the store in our small village. And then when we arrived home, I had a sudden energy. Good morning, Mike. And I wanted to spend some time out in the garden. It's very messy in our garden at the moment. Here in the front of our garden, between the house and the small road, this is kind of my place. And then I have left the backyard to the kids, and they can just decide whatever they want to do there. But sometimes it's just too messy. A few weeks ago, hey Turid, a few weeks ago I think it was, we were again by the local store, and they have some like a recycling station there for papers and glasses and whatever. And the kids were really excited, and they got me in the store saying, "Oh, can we bring this home? Can we bring this home?" And they had found like huge pieces of the Lego. Do you know Lego? It's a very popular game thing that you can build things of. And they found this huge Lego parts. So they got them home, and they are very bright colors, and now they are in all our backyard. So I sort of forced my daughter now to clean it up a bit, and I felt this I want to do something too. So I have been carrying things and throwing away things, and I could. It's not every day that I find that energy within myself when it's this kind of weather. It's cold and it's dirty and everything looks so boring. So I really like to, stay with that feeling if I want to do something. Today I left the title kind of empty because I don't know exactly what to harvest today. I was out very late yesterday, not that late, but it was very dark, and I had to use my torch to harvest some kale over there, and I made this lovely salad bowl. Kids hated it, but I loved it. I don't know what you call this creamy thing that you have on like grilled sausages along with ketchup. Senap in Swedish. But I make a dressing with oil and vinegar, some honey, and this senap, mustard. And it's super tasty to have on a salad with the kale and apple. So I ate lots and lots of it. But today is Monday, and some weeks I try to have like a special dinner in my mind for Mondays, just to make it easier to plan. And Mondays I try to make a soup. I saw the other day we have lots and lots of peppers in the freezer. So I will try to use pepper in some way, but together with root vegetables. And I do have over here some black salsify, svartrot in Swedish. They don't look that much. Usually I have a whole very long garden bed with black salsify, but this year I made a different priority, so I grew less black salsify. Now I think that was very stupid because when it comes to this time of the year, it's very important for me to have different varieties to choose from, different vegetables, because otherwise the food gets a bit boring. We have lots of carrots at the moment, and we do have parsnips, we have root celeriac, we have beetroots, but I would love to have plenty of the black salsify. We had I don't know if it was last year or the year before that, maybe. I'll show you. I have 5 main sections in my kitchen garden, and in 2 of them I have 6-meter tall garden beds, like in this area with the kale and brassicas. I have 6 meters. The beds are that long. So in 1 year I grew lots of black salsify. So I filled up a whole bed with 3 or 4 rows. So I had like 24 meters of black salsify. So we could have like black salsify all late fall and all spring long. It's not possible to harvest the black salsify when it's frozen in the ground, right? Because they are so long and they get stuck in the ground. But so why I didn't choose a title for this video is simply because I don't know if I can get something up from this palette color. And if you haven't heard about palette colors are very popular to use in Sweden to grow vegetables, and maybe it's the most common way to start a vegetable garden in Sweden. And this is when I was a little girl. I was brought up on an island outside Gothenburg. It was very idyllic, and what made it even more idyllic was that my father is a boat builder, so he had his own building for where he built his ships, and it was a nice way to be brought up to, because we didn't go, me and my sisters and brothers, we didn't go to any daycare. We stayed with our mom and dad, just the same way as Philip and I have chosen to live with our kids. And it was really exciting. So I remember when the big ship came from town with lots of machines and materials that my father ordered. And I don't know the correct words here, but the ship it was going to the harbor on our island, and they drove with the big machines, like engines or engine parts for my father's ships, and they were loaded in this kind of pallet collars with a typical lid on top. So the pallet collars are not produced so that you can grow things in them, but someone came up with this bright idea, and now you see them all over Sweden. They are so popular. And I prefer not to grow things in pallet collars because I think it's a problem with this frame. I know that in the United States it's very popular to grow in raised beds that you have put a frame over your bed. But it's more difficult actually to grow in such a bed because this frame made from tree will actually sort of well, it makes it more difficult to water in a proper way, because the tree will take some of the moisture into the sun, and you will see sooner or later a small space between the soil and the tree, and that small space is simply air, and the air will dry out the soil. So I think it's more difficult actually to grow in this kind of place, and I think it's a bit it's not really good that well, if you are a beginner and you want to create a kitchen garden in a quick and easy way, you should not use pallet collars because it's more difficult to grow in this kind of raised bed. Well, I am now going to try to find some black salsify here. I will only use the black salsify now in the soup for the taste, and then I will mix it with pepper and potatoes and maybe some carrots. But I will try to use it, not only a small part of it. The problem here is we had a very dry start of this summer too. It was awfully dry in 2018, and the beginning of 2019 was first of all very cold this year, and it was also quite dry. And I didn't make it, watering, because it's very far. We have our water hose, and you can see the black hose in this bed. And the connection between the water hose and this kind of soaker hose is, a few meters away from here. So my hose, they don't really come to this place. So I can't water it in an easy way. So they didn't really grow that good. And I will have to think about that until next year. Next year I will use this area for beans and peas, maybe. There's a garden a few kilometers away from here. I pass it when I go to another city. I don't know the people who grow that garden, but they had a lovely way of growing beans this year. They had made like poles in the garden, and they grew this very tall, high beans. And it was so beautiful because the whole garden seemed to be full of those poles with high plants of beans. So I am thinking about doing something similar in some parts of the garden next year. Oh, you have so many plans, right? It's a bit tricky today because I have a microphone connected to this wire. So I will try to do this in some way. I hope I will not destroy this wire. And I didn't tell you all of it now. My small discussion about the water, why was it? Well, if you don't water the black salsify, as with carrots and parsnips, they will be too dry and they grow very slowly. And it could happen also that if they don't get enough water, they will sort of split the roots. And I don't know if I will find any black salsify in a size that really is good enough for me to use. So let's just find out. And if I don't find anything here to use, I will just go to another part of the garden and try to find something else. Let's just do it. And I couldn't do this earlier this week, basically because the ground was frozen. Oh, it is frozen. Maybe. Kom igen. It's very exciting. Yay! Woohoo! Look at this. And you see, I didn't get all of it, unfortunately. But this is a really nice looking black salsify. I will try to find another one. This was a tiny one, and this size, I mean, it's my little finger. In this size, it's no use really. But maybe in a soup it's a use, but yeah, let's. The ground is very hard. I don't know if it's like roots from the trees or something. Here's one. Come on. Yeah, this wasn't full length, but here you can see that it's split. And this could be because I didn't water it. And they should be, all of them should be in this size. But because it was too dry and I didn't water, I get punished by this thin, poor roots. That was a rock. Yeah, and as you can see as well, here's the. I felt with a spade. I felt a rock in the ground, and if a carrot or another root vegetable like black salsify hits a rock, it will split. And this is like no use for me. I mean, if I peel this, there are hardly anything left, so it's no use. And it's the same here. A three-legged black salsify. Well, I knew that I would not find the most perfect black salsify. When I grow, a big bed with black salsify, we can eat it and sort of we can eat black salsify instead of potatoes in gratins, in soups, and baked in the oven or whatever. So we eat a lot of it. I mean, really a lot of it. And it was amazing because when my daughter, she is now 7, when she was a baby, and when she first explored, eating things, her favorite was black salsify. And that year I grew it here in my deep dug garden bed, and this is 10 meters tall, and I grew black salsify in nearly all of it. So I had lots and lots of black salsify. In Sweden you would pay, if there's a package with long roots like this, you will pay like 35 or 40 kroner. It's like 4 euro for 5 roots if they are organic. So I felt when I had the big garden beds with black salsify, I felt like I was rich like ever, because it's a very like valuable vegetable. Not only when it comes to pricing, but also in Sweden you can leave them in ground, and that's what I love to do when I have the big beds with black salsify. I leave them in ground and I harvest in springtime. It's no use for me to do that when I only have this little area. But when I leave the roots in the ground and I harvest it in springtime we have no potatoes left. We hardly have any carrots. We may have a bit parsnips, but if I am carefully when I use the varieties that I'm going to grow and overwinter in ground, for example, I can beat this. I think you call it in English, you call it like the hungry gap. The time in spring, how should I describe it? When you have finished like the winter vegetables, the roots and leeks and onions that you have kept from last year, before you can harvest new things for the year, there's a space in a couple of weeks or months, and you call it the hungry gap. And that definitely appears in Sweden too. But if I'm very careful in planning like my sowings and my vegetables, what kind of vegetables that I choose to grow, I can beat the hungry gap even in Sweden, even though it's cold and dark. and have things to harvest from my own garden all year round. And I think that's amazing. When I started to explore this, more like experienced gardeners, they said to me, "Oh no, it's no use and it will never work, and don't buy a polytunnel believing that you can extend the season this or that way." But I tried to do it and I found that it worked. And now it makes a whole difference for many gardeners in Sweden. So it's really important to keep like exploring things and trying. And I really think that in my garden it's very important to make like mistakes. You try something and you find that it didn't work, and you try to do it a bit differently the other time. And finally you will see that some things works, and you can do that and just do it like plenty if you have great use for it. So I am not afraid of making mistakes, and that's very important to me. Well, I think I have my ground for this soup, and I bought some lovely organic cream, and I have potatoes and peppers, and I will not use my precious leeks for this soup. I will instead use onions. I have lovely shallots that I harvested in summer. And shallots, you know that if you grow in similar climate, that you can actually put shallots in ground now in fall and winter to have a really early harvest of shallots in next summer. I love that, but I didn't have time or energy to do that this year, so I saved my shallots for spring. Oh my God, what is the I think in Swedish the variety is called longor that I use. It's a banana shallot. It's in a banana shape. Super tasty. Well, my friends, I will bring this to the kitchen and start my dinner making, along with the kids and cats and dogs and whatever. I don't know if you hear the sounds from our upper floor. Today was very special. I will show you. We have like construction workers on our upper floor. I have dreamt of this for 15 years. I bought this house 2004, and our upper floor and the attic, well, we can't use most of it because it's there are no like wallpapers and no proper floors and things like that. But today you see that we have the windows here, and on the attic we have this half moon shaped window. That's what we call it in Swedish. And in this part of the house, on the attic, there's no floor. So I have sort of never been able to go to that window and have a look from the attic out in the nature here and in the garden. But today they have put floor on that part, and I could actually walk very comfortably to that window and have a look, and I was like nearly crying. It's very emotional to see the house taking this, this change. So in a few days, I think they are going to remove the windows, the half moon shaped window, on this side and also in the north part of the house. And we are going to renovate it. So we have a guy in the neighbor village. He's an expert in old windows and stuff like that. This house is nearly 200 years old. It's like 198 years old. So we are going to celebrate in 2 years or so. 200 years. It's exciting. Well, my friends, thank you all for watching. And I'll see you again tomorrow with a new report in my harvest calendar. And don't forget now to let me know what you can harvest in your garden. And don't forget also to write where you live, because it's really interesting to see how things change in parts of the world. Here's bomben, the bomb, and here's kuling. Hey, Kuppen. Oh, hey. Someone asked about the dog, what kind of I was going to say variety he is. You are not a variety. But he is a Newfoundland dog. He's a bit wounded in his head, allergic to his food, but I think we are getting it under control now. I could talk like forever. It's a nice pause from like the everyday life with the kids, but now I think I will have to go and make some fika, mellanmål. We have lots of words to describe a piece of sandwich and a glass of milk in the afternoon for the kids. See you all tomorrow. Bye bye.